Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Max Fraser. I'm the editorial director of Dezeen. It's a great pleasure to be here in Dubai during Dubai Design Week, and particularly to be here in the Gaggenau showroom. The title of the talk is Breaking the Mold, Designers Shifting the Status Quo. And I'm really delighted to be joined by three Dubai-based designers doing just that. So I have Pallavi Dean, who is the founder and CEO of Raw, based here in Dubai. Pallavi has also been a Dezeen Awards judge. On my left, I have Rania, who's the founder of VSHD Design, and indeed a regular entrant of the awards. And we have Ross Lovegrove as well, the founder of Deond. Also been a Dezeen Awards judge, and this year has been judging our China Awards as well. So I have asked each of them to prepare a few images that will kind of represent projects that they worked on that perhaps in some way challenge and push this idea of taking us out of the mold, pushing the status quo. And so as part of this process, I'd like you all to introduce yourselves and then show us the projects that you're working on. Pallavi, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, let's dive straight in. So this is Ajman Ruler's quote. And, talking about breaking the mold, it's a governmental office. But how does a governmental office convey service, convey humility, not just reverence? This is a space that's designed for the people. So we started by creating an art gallery rather than just an office space. And you'll see some local artists that are featured here. I'm going to go quickly because no one likes a long-winded introduction. This was actually shortlisted last year on the Dezeen Awards, which I was very proud out of those 4,000 entries. It's Jaipur Rugs. It's a retail store. And the idea of the stepwells was inspired by Boweries, which is a traditional stepwell in Jaipur. So how do you modernize heritage, or how do you bring modernity to craft? And I think this was a great kind of experiment. This project was a great experiment in that. This is Nursery of the Future. I picked this project because this is one of the first projects that Dezeen ever published of us. And I was like, I have made it now. Dezeen thinks we're the real deal. But what was important was this was done 10 years ago. And back then, I had a lot of pushback. You can't do a nursery space that is all white. What are you doing? It has to have color. But we really understood the pedagogy. We understood the curriculum. And more importantly, we understood how children learn. And they do need spaces that calm them down, that kind of trigger the rest and response system, your parasympathetic nervous system, not just the flight and fight, which is why it's such a calm space and has a lot of sinuous shapes and forms. And then another project that we worked on is for the royal family. We never get to publish our residential projects. I tell everyone I'm a multi-sector firm, and this is what I do. I do schools, I do residences. They're like, don't lie to us. Never seen a school or a house you've designed. And I'm like, I can't show you images, but I'm showing you a visual. Breaking the mold. I really wanted a Gabion wall within the space, and we use that on the architecture. And sometimes you have to educate clients and be like, hey, I know that that's not something you see within the interiors, but give me a chance, let me do it. Give me a chance to have an exposed ceiling, within your living room space. And they were like, heck, you know what, do it. We have so many homes and palaces anyways. But what I think design is really about, it's not about aesthetics. I think the next big revolution in design is going to be about behavioral change. How do I influence the behavior or make you feel at peace or at ease in a space? So what we often do is we do a lot of thought papers and white papers, and this is independent research. We bring together psychologists, designers, developers, whoever those stakeholders are, and create independent research that we then use in our projects. I always say any project that Roar does is 50% wild, that's a crazy creative artistic side, and 50% tame, which is evidence-based, which has a very McKinsey-like 25-step process, and which is just neuroscientific, but also human-centric. That's it for me. No, it's Rania next.
You say 50% wild. Is that where your name comes from then? Raw.
No, that's from Katy Perry, actually. Let's be real. I'm a huge fan.
Rania, over to you.
So, yeah, oops, I have to go back. Okay. So I think that it's very important for me to introduce a bit our philosophy just to understand how we work. And so basically, very simply, I work with spaces This is what I do most of the time, is working with the space. I see how people experience the space, how they move through the space, and how the design affect their experience. So basically, and this is really the part that intrigues me the most, is the experience that, you know, the user has in the space. So starting with this is one of our first projects, you know, focusing on experience. We worked on this project during COVID. And really, the whole idea was we're coming all out of COVID and everybody wants to be connected to nature. And I collected those stones from the shores of the Red Sea and I started observing them. And I know that everybody collects stones, but for some particular reason, you know, I like felt the surfaces, the organic forms, and so on. So we decided to do this coffee shop, which was kind of a, for me, it's like a complete change in the coffee culture in the region and beyond that. So everything was organic. The seating layout was organic. The arrangement of the bar was organic. And then we go a bit to the process. So okay. So this was very, you know, we did the opposite. When it came to the blocks of the marble, we did the opposite. Instead of, you know, sketching and then 3D modeling, we were 3D modeling and then sketching over it with our hands to get this human touch to every piece in the space. And creating an experience does not mean just an experience. So we did, you see the central image here, we did a mock-up because we wanted to make sure, since the layout of the bar was very organic, that the operation, you know, people can move around it, you know, and it's functional for them. And these images just to show how heavy, because we decided to go with solid blocks of marble, which was quite something, but it just gave more, you know, when you go there, you really feel it. You feel nature with its imperfection. So, yeah, and then, I hope okay, right arrow. Okay, so here is origami. It's a restaurant in the mall. And the biggest challenge was how to create a transition between the busy, loud, very bright mall corridors and the interiors of the restaurants, which was supposed to be dim, very quiet, like an underground sushi bar. So we created that temple-like, you know, entrance. And in that entrance, we also had two zones, one for seating and another one for retail. We used those beautiful glass blocks and completely concealed the structure. So the light was coming in from the corridor, reflecting through the blocks, but at the same time, there was very minimal light inside the restaurant. Okay. So this is Fold. So Fold is a concept store, and it's a space for community, for food, for fashion, for products, and so on. We repurposed a villa, 1970 villa, but we had a lot of issues with the structure. We had so many columns and so many, you know, things placed, we couldn't change it. So the solution was to cover those columns. So we use linoleum, which is a material that has never been used on the walls. Instead, it's an industrial material that you use on surfaces, on tables, and so on. So we use that material, and we actually exposed the hooks to give it more, you know, like a kind of a creative lab feel, because this is supposed to be a platform for homegrown brands and designers and so on. And you can see even here how, you know, very raw the interior is. Then I just want to explain the experience. So these images are not taken by us. We've collected those images from Instagram before the presentation, just to show how you know, the user interacts with our spaces. They feel that, you know, you can see from here, everyone is standing there and they see something, they feel something, and they want to capture it, you know, and they want to share it too. So I think that experience is the most important element now in design, an experience that has a meaning behind it.
It's really refreshing to see some people in the interiors. You know, like in my job, we get these shiny pictures of interiors of buildings with nobody in them. And of course, you're designing for the people. So to see them interact and behave I guess, in ways that you were hoping they would.
Yes, exactly.
Or not, maybe,
Yes.
is also okay.
Yeah,
That's really nice to
and
see.
even that shot, the second one, whoever took it is because of the scale. You can see the restaurant's entrance, how big it is. It's like really like a temple in the mall, and the scale of the people walking through it. So I think, yeah, it's
Thank you. You've given me a renewed reason to visit the mall.
okay.
Out grateful for that.
That's great.
It's kind of a crazy place.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's
Thank you, Rania. We need to get this across to Ross. Ross, over to you.
Where's that going? Yeah. What do I do? I mean, that's the problem, isn't it? I do interiors, but generally I do interiors of aircraft or yachts or, other kinds of spaces. And I have designed houses and blah, blah, blah. I just don't really publish it very much. I mean, my history's always been, it's a terrible title. It's called Industrial Designer. It sounds like I fix cars or something. It's all oily. In fact, my work is the opposite again. So I call myself a sculptor of technology. So here in Dubai, I wear two hats. One is I maintain my individuality, my aesthetic. As Ross Lovegrove, I'm interested in that. And there's a lot of bandwidth in there, and it keeps pace with technology. So it's forever. And I do believe in my aesthetics, so I don't want to just suddenly jump away from that. And then the other side is a company I established with my wife, Ela Colombo, which is called Deond, which is beyond design. And what that does is it's a multidisciplinary practice that is looking at new technologies and the way we build housing intelligently, by the way, with the way that you insulate, isolate, all those type of things that you do. Because I think if anywhere in the world, you can do it here. So that's the built environment. That's more like housing rather than skyscrapers. And I enjoy that side. I'm not showing this side today, but I enjoy that side because it gives our team a way to really collaborate. It's not the Ross Lovegrove show, which I've had for a long time, but I still like what I do. So I keep that to one side. So, it's something like this is Japan Airlines. You have no idea when you do this kind of work how complex it is. I mean, you got to be really strong and you got to know your stuff. This is not for the faint-hearted because they treat you like a supplier. If you're a day late, the fines are extraordinary because they can't fly the planes. And this is an advanced study, by the way, of how to put seats into the fuselage and then liberate the main space. This was the second phase of a project for Japan Airlines that was built, all flying done, where I would look at the psychology of the space. It's kind of interesting what Pallavi was saying, because you fly at night. It's quite interesting. You fly on an aircraft, and if you feel queasy, you feel kind of, you got that sickness. If you look out the window at the clouds, your sickness goes away. It's because they treat these spaces as terrestrial spaces with square walls and so on. They shouldn't. It should be fully organic. It's another experience. It's not a terrestrial experience. So even serving steak in the sky doesn't. I don't understand any of that. I think it should be a health gig. Anyway, so I've worked for years in this sector, exploring what it feels like to really. Because you can do it because you're a customer. Most of the things I do, I experience. I've never designed ski boots because I can't ski, so I never touch them. So most of what you see here is experiential. I popped this in because I never show this work ever, and I'm tired of what I show. The whole palette of what I'm sharing with you today is a language. It's not differentiated between seating and aviation, or it's just it's a mood of our time through my eyes. It's not prescriptive. I don't expect everybody to live that way, but I love organic design. I love form, and most of my time is spent trying to discover new ways of working with materials and form, because I think it's a universal language. It's beyond language. So it has an emotional content. You know, and I popped this one in too. This is called Bio Yacht, because boy, am I tired of seeing these arrogant yachts by very rich tech guys or royalty. Don't know, I got to watch what I say here, but where it's got nothing to do with the ocean. You know how incredible the ocean is and the species that live there? And it's incredible. And without the ocean, we don't survive. And yet the way that we design for it is so brutal, I think. And, you know, it's an opportunity. I think it's an opportunity to blend technology with natural elements, plus solar, plus, you know. Excuse me. Oh yeah. So you know, and then it allows you to look at the forms of that yacht in another way. You know, how you interact, how the ocean plays a strong part in the forming of the lines and so on. So it's not formulaic in the way you see with a Louis Vuitton concept boat or whatever. And I just don't understand how you can put the kind of furniture that we see in paintings and things in yachts on the water. I think there's another dimension. So this is an area that fascinates me, and I stay a little bit edgy. I prefer to stay true to my thoughts on it rather than to sell out. So yeah. And this was ever built, this one? No. It got close, actually. I mean, the whole way that yachts are built is, God, it's shockingly complex again, because you've got shipyards, you've got clients. How do you find that client? Why does that client ask you? And by the way, it's a bit like real estate, because a lot of the time they design in a way, it's not for them. It's because they want the resale value kept. So that's a terrible thing. I mean, I think it's one of the worst things on earth. It's like the people who never take the plastic covers off their car seats because they want to resell it, you know, mainly Uber drivers. This was built. This is all my work for Vitra in Istanbul. And it depends which way you want to look at all this. I designed 407 products for them in 9 years, all engineered, all done, by the way. And at the same time, I took them from number 33 in the world to number 3. But I also became their face and their voice, because they didn't know how to express themselves. And I ended up working with actually the owner, who's a billionaire, who's a friend, because he could see that, you know, you need one voice, one level of clarity. And, you know, you do everything. You're training the people in the factory who make the ceramics and so on. And just a quick anecdote, 'cause this is good. I designed a wash basin for a collection called Istanbul. And I took the model to the factory down in Bozu, which is where the Ottoman Empire started from. It's a mere 6-hour drive south of Istanbul. And the head of the factory said it was impossible to make this wash basin because of movement of the ceramic, the heat. And I said to him, yeah, but if you don't mind. I said, but please try. And he was a big guy with big hands. And of course, he doesn't speak English, so he's getting redder and redder, because every time he'd say no, I would say, have a go. We did it about 8 times. And I'm telling you, I thought he was going to punch me, because it's tough. And it turned out he just got over a heart attack, so he wasn't in a good mood, right? So anyway, a month later, this is no word of a lie, I come back, they've got a makeshift curtain in the factory, and they pull it back and it's standing there. Yeah, but I don't know. It's total bullshit, because I feel I don't know. But my best friend always said that I'm a master of things I don't know. I just do it, and then with confidence, and it works. I've done that with all these companies around the way, Sony, everywhere, Apple. I just go, yeah, this is the way it is. And we found a way to do it. So, I'd love to apply that to, other things, but you have to have a relationship with the client. If this is a 9-year relationship every month, Istanbul. But it's great because as a designer, you end up seeing the world. They used to have a sign that said, join the army and see the world. Remember that? I think be a designer and be part of the world. And that's the diversity.
Yeah, I chose to be a journalist and see the world that way, but
Yeah.
didn't feel the need to join the army.
No way. And then this is a private villa in Portugal that's it's not under construction, but it's still in process. And this is interesting because it's a tiny little site. It's 20 meters wide by 100 meters long, okay? And most of the construction is underground. You put these 2 walls up, these concrete walls, and then what you do is this is a machined foam bridge. It's got an inner armature, but it's foam, right? And you spray it with a material that you can drop an egg out of a skyscraper, a real one, coated in this, not boiled, and it'll bounce. This material is incredible. So it's lightweight structure, easy to build, construct. You mill it, you glue it, you put, it's new ways of thinking about how we build. So it's not so eternal. I mean, the problem I find with building these days, it's all for longevity in a sense, when I think there's an arrogance to having buildings built that, in the past, no, but now, they're pretty shabby for what they are. They won't go the test of time. So it's better to have this metabolic rate of change, I think, and enjoy technological possibilities. So that's me cooked. Yeah, thank you.
There we are. Thank you, Ross. I think I'm kind of interested by this notion of mediocrity in the world, because everything that you're saying illustrates to me that you must really be deeply disappointed by a lot of what we see in the world. But there is a lot of very mediocre design out there, right? And you're always sort of, well, all of you, this isn't just you, Ross, but I mean, you're all pushing against that kind of mediocrity. You don't take the status quo as given. How do you keep ensuring that you're pushing a new direction?
I think you have to be honest with yourself first, right? I think as designers, we're just curious beings. And that's why we chose this profession, so that we wake up one morning, we're designing a hotel and we're trying to play with the material as you did in your coffee shop, or we're trying to play with a difficult client, or we're collaborating with the joiner who is refusing to do something we're asking them to do. So I think it starts with curiosity, but then being honest with yourself and pushing yourself, because mediocrity just comes from laziness. There's a tried and tested way of doing things, and that's where stagnation happens. So if you go down that path well-trodden, you're just going to churn out a same portfolio of stuff. And this is why I kind of hate people who have a signature style. I'm always like, hang on a second, how could you have a studio with a signature style and have a career that spans 30 years? Because how are you then responding to context? How are you then responding to the client brief? How are you responding to the program? And I feel like I love that all our projects are so different and no 2 projects look alike. It's because we're curious and we're pushing the boundaries on each one of those.
Curious, that's a wonderful word. Do you want to say something about that?
I mean, I do agree with Pallavi that it's all about being lazy, because now, if you look at design, unfortunately, a lot of designs has no meaning behind it. So I think the way to push boundary is through the design process itself. I was just speaking to Ross about that we kind of do like an educational step before the concept, just to, take the client on a journey, make them understand the concept and the value behind this design. It's super important. This way you have the client on your side and they're pushing the boundary with you. So I think that it's really, the process is super important in design, how you do the process. And even that process, we share it with the contractors, we share it with the suppliers. So this way we're able to get our design intent to construction, to the final phase.
Well, all of you talks about clients.
Yes,
the client, of course, is really important. So, the designer is often held up as the hero when a project is complete, right? And hats off to you all. But of course, those projects wouldn't happen without a visionary client. How do you take them on board with your vision as much as giving them a part of what they want to achieve as well, Ross?
Yeah, well, I don't really know where to begin. I've done thousands of things, first Walkman, all these kind of things, where if you don't have self-belief, how the hell are you going to ever communicate that to somebody else? So part of what I was saying earlier, well, have a go. That's very important, I think. But so too is power of concept. And I can talk until you all fall asleep about those kind of people, Zaha Hadid, Maria Abramovich, Richard Serra. You go through your list of, they've all got power of concept. Wow, out of my way. That's what we're doing. But it's more of an art positioning, right? Because art elevates. Not sure if design does. I mean, art will elevate design, but I'm not sure if design will elevate art, right? And that's my profession. But I've always tried to put an art value into things, sculptural, whatever material, whatever that might be. Even if it's a humble water bottle or something, I never treat it as something secondary. I treat it like my life depends on it. And I still do that now. And by the way, I look very successful, but I only probably do 4 projects a year. But they're ones I want to do, and they're crafted and they're really thought through. Because it's not about quantity. Because then I think if you got too much quantity, then you become formulaic. So this is how to find that balance from a business point of view. So yeah, I think it's power of concept over and above everything. And it doesn't matter whether you're the client or the designer, it will carry. You go, oh my God, well, can we really do that? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the power of concept is all very well, but it comes a certain point when it's like, okay, this now it needs to be made. And your story of the guy in Turkey saying no, and you pushing on that. Of course, that comes at a cost as well. You're asking the client to invest. You're also pushing a typology. I mean, the designs we saw there for the bathroom are like nothing else on the market, right? So you're asking them to invest in your vision, and will it work? And
Depends
will the
who your
market
client
respond?
is, Max, because if it's a private client for a villa, maybe Pallavi and Rania can talk about it more than I can. But if it's a client who is a commercial client, if you like, I do things that are almost impossible to copy. We call it inimitable. You dare, because I want to produce really iconographic things. Even a little bit off, you're copying me, and that is copying the client. So it's a defense position through uniqueness. A Pantone chair. It's certainly a Pantone chair. Everything else is a copy. So we need to maintain that. I think that kind of positioning. You go, oh my God, look at that. That must be great.
I don't know if you're picking up on this vibe recently, but I feel like this notion of innovation is slightly at risk at the moment. That we seem to be living in quite a risk-averse world right now. I don't know if that's because of everything that's going on in the world. There's a sort of instability politically. There's wars. There's all sorts happening. To that end, the design industry also feels a little bit stuck, sort of churning out the same, sort of multiple iterations of the same thing all the time. Where would you see are the exciting opportunities in amongst all of that risk aversion? Who wants to have a crack on that one?
People think this idea of innovation is about defying gravity, doing something that's never been seen before. But true innovation is maybe learning what's been done before you and changing it by 5%, changing it by 20%, right? Whether that is finding a better way to work with a material that reduces wastage, in my opinion, that is innovation, right? Can you lay out your tiles in a certain way that you waste 20% less? That's not just innovation, that's also helping the environment. But innovation is also, you talked about processes. What can we do to streamline our design process? Sometimes designers can be very high and mighty and think they wear a cape and they know best. But it's also about bringing the other person, like the client, on a journey with you. And that comes with conviction. So you have to know your craft, own your craft, and be able to make quick decisions. I think that's what clients value. I'm sorry, I'm going back to your previous question. Clients value a trusted partner and someone who can tell them with conviction what's right or wrong. And to answer your question on innovation, I don't think it's about reinventing the wheel, but it's about understanding how to do things 10% better, 20% better. And yes, people are risk averse, but not in Dubai, because things are happening at such a fast pace in the UAE. We almost have permission to try, innovate, fail fast, move on again. I don't know how many other cities allow you that opportunity, but I was born here, raised here, I've been here for the last 44 years of my life. I've really found that it's much easier to innovate here than maybe in North America or in Europe, where we also do work.
Interesting. I mean, you've jumped the gun a little bit. I was going to come on to Dubai later, but we might as well tackle that one right now. So you were born and raised here. You've been here for 30 years or something, right? Ross, you've been here for 2 years. So you're all going to have a slightly different take on it. I mean, we've heard yours, but do you want to both say something about what it's like to be here in particular in Dubai?
I mean, I feel, first of all, I totally agree, you know, the pace is very fast, but this for me is very positive, to be in a place with such a fast pace. And I feel that, you know, you get a chance to really push the boundaries over here, because people are very much tuned into design. You know, people do appreciate design. I mean, if you travel to Europe and go to a restaurant, you don't look for a well-designed restaurant, but if you come to Dubai, you go to a restaurant because it's well-designed, more than the menu and the chef of all this.
Ideally, one of your restaurants.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I think that that's really a very strong point over here, and we need that, honestly, in the Arab world, because design is not really well defined. The value behind design is not, you know, realized so well. So I feel that Dubai is helping a lot with this.
But is it just that design isn't well defined, as you say?
Yeah.
Is that actually the opportunity, that you're not
yes,
working
it
within
is.
this sort of historic parameters that perhaps we see in other countries?
If I can build on that, it's because Dubai is such a new city. It's almost like working with wet clay, right? We're shaping its identity through our lens. And what is so interesting is it's such, look, Ross has been here from the UK, Rania, you're from Egypt. We have so many different nationalities coming in with their own history and their own culture and shaping this. And Dubai might have got a lot of flack for being an imitation kind of city, like, oh, what's happening in New York? What's happening in Singapore? Let's do that in Dubai. But now we're exporting those design ideas. People are looking to us and like, hey, that's an interesting little coffee shop and an office. Maybe we could do something like that here.
And would you say there was a tipping point where that happened? Is that a very recent thing, or?
I think that it was, you know, planned from the very start, the way the construction was done, the design, everything had design. I mean, there was a lot of priority given to design. You know, even Pallavi was saying now about coming here and taking from here and going outside instead of us borrowing from the West. We've just handed over a coffee shop similar to Origin in California. So can you imagine, the client passed by, they visited Origin, and then they asked us to design a coffee shop. And it is like a very different coffee culture. It's a coffee and wine bar, so it's a completely different coffee culture than what they have there. So I think, yeah, I think Dubai is a transitional place, and it's kind of, you know, it's now exporting kind of design in a way. Yeah.
And Ross, I mean, you located yourself in London, of course, have traveled widely in your career, but you would have said you were a London-based designer.
Yeah.
And now you very much say you're based here. It's been 2 years. What's your impression? And indeed, why did you come?
Well, that's a big one. But no, that might get very political, so I'm not going to do that for Dezeen. But, you know, just generally speaking, I think, you know, I'm an adventurer. You know, it's in my character. It's, you know, I love the world. You know, I want to learn from the world. I want to be part of new possibility. And as I get older, that feeling gets stronger, right? And this is a melting pot here. I mean, it's fantastic. People are very wonderful. They're wonderful people here. So there's a misnomer. I think there's an image from the outside, but then there's another reality from the inside. There's high quality here. There's high quality, very educated people. Remember, English is sort of the first language, but everybody's from different parts. Certainly from the region, which I enjoy. Most of the staff in, you know, on Deond are from the region, Lebanese, Egyptian, and I really like that. I mean, leaving London, where it was very much whatever it was, determine what it was, okay? But remember this, when I was in London, and you know, I had a lovely studio in London for 30 years, none of the money from the city of London ever came over. There was nobody entrepreneurial, no startup mentality, no let's try this, nothing. I think I did 2 projects in my whole life in Britain. So why would you live there? So what I'm hoping will happen, I don't know yet because it's still early days, is to be part of this in some way, not to copy anybody else, but bring some other dimension that is not better or worse, but just something which, certainly in the Deond front, that's intelligence, that's going to help with the way we cool buildings and deal with buildings, so it's off-grid, it's other ways of looking at living, housing, instead of concrete, which is very interesting. But then on the other side, I'm in dialogue with a lot of people here, from the Minister of AI, who is a friend, and God knows what, who I'm in that inner circle to understand what happens to Dubai. They have all these big visions of Dubai, but I don't see it. So that's got to be implemented, and it's not all about looks. It's about the embedded intelligence of, what's the air we breathe, and, how we school the children. I got young child, how we deal with that. And it's really fresh here. It's not perfect, but what is perfect? Yeah. And for those watching on camera, what you won't know is there's an audience behind here, and I've seen a few of you already this evening who are also from many, many different parts of the world, bringing and feeding into this kind of cocktail of cultures, I suppose. We've talked about you guys, we've talked about your clients, but there's also a lot of wonderful people in the middle of all that who perhaps the unsung heroes, some of the other creatives that you work with, the challengers, the craftspeople, the contractors. What's all of that side of it like? Do you feel like you have really good access to that here? Is there that ecosystem? You're probably best.
100%. I'm a huge fan of social sustainability, right? If we can do it on our doorstep, why go anywhere else? And you have it all across, from Ajman, Sharjah, carpet makers, metal fabricators in Quain. Abu Dhabi has its own plethora of stuff. But when you work on an architecture and an interior design project, it's like composing a beautiful piece of jazz. You're riffing off each other, right? You're only as good as a pianist, and then you're relying on the saxophonist to come in at the right time, and your lead vocals have to be just right. Maybe jazz is too... Look at a football analogy, right? You're only as good as you need a midfield, you need a defender, you need a center forward, right? And you need a coach kind of putting all these players in the right position. So I think there's no such thing as a star architect. I get very appalled when someone's like, oh my God, Pallavi, love that thing you designed. I was like, I'm designer. I have a team of 50 people. We all did different things. Then it went to the project manager who managed us, and then the contractor, and then the joiner, and then the guy who put the AC in place. So I really think design is a team effort. And the client's a huge part of that team as well, because he's paying for this, right? He's paying for our dreams to come true. So yeah, for me, it's kind of like that football or that musical piece analogy, and you're working with everyone, and you're only as good as the sum of your parts. You can't do it alone.
The luxury market, if we can use that word, or the high-end market, can be rather conservative. And I think we do see a lot of that also here. There's a sort of a luxury look that is replicated around the place. I'd probably put this into your camp, but working on interiors, but how can you change that? How can you turn the dial on that kind of aesthetic away from the expectation of what luxury should be and what it looks like?
I think it is quite a challenge. So people, there's a very big percentage of people who wants to have just a statement. Just the fact of having a statement, not really design with a value. So I think to tackle this issue is just to try as much as possible to have the value, to sell the value, and again, I go back to explaining what's the value behind this design, because, unfortunately, luxury, which is a word that we never use anymore. I haven't used luxury for 5-6 years, and every time I see luxury, no, luxury. Yes. So
what do you use?
I use genuine, authentic. I use, I think this is super important for us because, again, like we said, Dubai is still coming up with this. I know that it's been portraying design for a very long time. But what I want to say is going back to our roots, to our culture, is super important. And I think there's a lot of potential in this region. I think that design will come out of this region very strongly, and in more depth, than before.
Yeah, I mean, certainly at the high end of the market, you were obviously dealing with decent budgets half the time as well. So you're in a great position to actually deal with the authentic and the genuine and not follow a sort of identikit kind of a look and a feel.
I think with the more mature clients now, right, we'll work with celebrities, we'll work with royalty, we'll work with Forbes list billionaires. What they really want, and I'm going to say it because it's the truth, they want something that nobody else has, right? And that is, most of the times, that is my brief. I want something that nobody else has. So then I'm thinking, okay, I need to find a quarry which has a marble that I can only use in your house, and then I'm going to buy every single slab of that so nobody else can use it. So we're getting into, but that's great, because we're getting into craftsmanship. They don't want that monogrammed furniture that everybody else has. They want that bespoke piece of thing that a little, workshop only in Jaipur can make. And I'm here for it. And I'm like, yes, I like this new definition of luxury, because I'm not spending time now. Hey, let's put that vomiting gold tap that was very trendy, about 15 years ago. We're not doing that. It's not about just the glossy materials. It's more about craftsmanship. And I'm on board. I'm okay with that definition of luxury.
I mean, the hospitality sector is moving in that way. Certainly we see it with hotel chains now where, a hotel chain used to have the same looking hotel in every city, every country in the world. And now the better ones at least are pushing really against
and more
that. So they have
boutique
more
hotels.
expression in their own, in each individual
I
hotel.
think people don't even know where the word luxury comes from. Do you? I do, right?
I have a feeling you do.
I do.
Indulge us.
I do, because it comes from luxus. And luxus means blossoming. And blossoming means life has returned. And maybe the food has returned. It's something absolutely fundamental. Okay, so it's quite interesting that the word is not really used here. I mean, what means luxury? I mean, it's almost geographical what means luxury today. So, water for everybody for free is luxury. So I think this is a place you can investigate those ideas, because it's supposed to be a model for the world. And that's kind of interesting. And because there are these incredible materials also in the region, and we're on the doorstep of India where they also make incredible things, why not? I think we need a new word, of course, so it's not hijacked. But I think it's a great opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, we often associate luxury with materiality and wealth, I suppose, which is the crude end of that word. But actually, I remember just after the crash in 2008, interviewing a ton of different designers and asking them, what is your definition of luxury? And so many of them used the word time, space, the ability to sleep freely, like the ability to ditch the technology. It was all intangible things. And I think we need to remind ourselves of that quite often, that it's not just about stuff.
Yeah, but I read recently that, the rarest material in the universe is not a gemstone, it's wood, because it's organic and it's of the earth. This is guessing there's no other earth, but there's no secondary earth. But isn't that wonderful? So next time you pick up a piece of wood, I mean, just think about it. That's it's so valuable, And at D3, the big show, they put beautiful olive trees outside. I mean, the outside's better than the inside for me. So I was looking, they're just magnificent, right? And they've got time and depth and growth and all those sort of things. So I think it's for people, like Rania and so on, to just really help redefine what that means. I don't, that's not as grand positioning. I think it's just a normal thing. What you're saying is very interesting for me, actually, to listen to you, what you both got to say, because it's a chance to recalibrate that from the inside out. And the more, I think, the more dialogue on that, the better. It's not an extreme hedonistic situation. It's not. It's just a use of incredible resources.
Wow. Resources. Thank you. That takes me nicely to my next question. Because, of course, I think, it's no surprise to anyone that our economic model is based on kind of perpetual growth. This like crazy concept that we can just keep growing through extraction and consumption. Of course, that sits at odds with the problems that we have with the planet and the climate crisis and dwindling resources. So, as a designer that's adding more to the world, using some of those resources, selling more things, how do you square these two rather uncomfortable truths? That's never an easy one for a designer to answer, by the way. So I'm interested in how you tackle this one. Do you want to go this? I would like you all to answer this question.
Okay, I'll go first. I think the onus is on us to not be reckless. We all have to make a living, right? We spend 89% of our time indoors, so there is a need for space. So we're not just designing stuff just for self-gratification. We're designing stuff for needs. But if you design responsibly, you design not just what's fad, what's in trend. If you design a space for the next 15 years, you're already doing your job right. And I think that's on us. So just because I like a powder-coated black finish, I should stay clear from that when I know that a satin nickel finish is actually going to last much longer for the client. So it's little micro decisions like this and being aware that every move we make actually has an impact. If you're going to put floor-to-ceiling glazing, you are increasing the heating load, especially in this, the cooling load, especially in this part of the world, right? So think about all of your micro decisions and just design timeless spaces. Stop designing trendy spaces.
I mean, I think this is quite challenging, to tell you honestly, especially in a place like Dubai. So I'll go to the very simple solutions, that I can do. I cannot do more than that. As much as possible, we try not to waste. We reuse things all the time. Sometimes we even store stuff from an old project in our warehouses to reuse it in another project. So, I mean, that's the maximum I think we can do for now. In addition, of course, of using local craftsmen, local companies. We develop even things. I had an issue in another project that was in the US that we couldn't find the tire. So to solve this solution, we cut glass, we back-painted it, and we exported to the US. So, we're trying so hard to work with the local crafts here in order to reduce, the transport, CO emission, and yeah.
What I hear is really quite innocent, and I don't think it's got really too much to do with the debate. I've worked in high-volume global industry. That's the villain, okay? Where they take resources from, normally is where conflict is, by the way. So you've got a terrible association going on there. And anybody can make anything from anything and sell anything to anybody. It's shocking. That's why the world is out of control. I was brought up to switch the lights off, only flush the loo if it was serious. We didn't have hot water till I was 13. My father didn't have shoes until he was 6. So I don't get fazed at all by the luxury gig. I mean, I can walk past it like it doesn't exist because it doesn't touch me. Remembering that back in Europe, people would fashion their homes with ancestral oil paintings, something they get from the flea market, an old sofa, a fantastic Pierre Paulin thing that's 50 years old that they clean up. And, they live with the luxury for them is all the artifacts that have significance and memory. Don't see any of that here at all, right? So I was telling Rania earlier, when we moved here 2 years ago, if you think I'm bringing anything of mine that's got soul, I've got to sit this out until I'm ready to know if I'm going to bring my first edition on Leonardo da Vinci, first thing ever written on him in French from the 17th century. Am I going to bring that here? I don't think so. So, I bring a device from Africa that's a couple hundred years old for making fire, because it constantly reminds me that, when all fails, there's the basic elemental side of life. So I think if anything, if you can if you can make it from an incredible material and it's unique and it standing the test of time, I think it's a wonderful opportunity. The problem is all the other side, which is electronics and things which just, they become obsolete. So I would push that even back to Gaggenau in a way, because you're melding technology with materials and basically food, food. And so it's an interesting space where technology is intersecting. So I think there's a lot to be discussed that's not quite as evident. We're not the villain. I don't think this is the...
No, but if you talk about the titans of industry, I think you referred to, who are pumping out millions of units of something, of which you might have designed it, of which you will hopefully be receiving decent royalties. You need to put food on your own plate. These kind of, these are the realities of living today. How do you say no? Can you ever say no to a project? Can you push back against something that you feel is wrong? Have you ever had to do it?
Have I ever had to do it? I do it. Or I say, no, why didn't you work with that designer? Because it pushes it off my chest. Okay? It's not a no. It's not a rebuff. It's, I think you're better working with that designer. Because, I have underpinning, what do you want to call it, whether an ethical position or certainly, I have rules and micro laws in what I do. Minimalism, dematerialization, minimum material. Minimalism is not linear. We are minimalist. And we are not linear. So I think there's something to be learnt. And as AI comes into the fore, I think it could be an interesting partner in certain areas. I do. So we're certainly looking at that, not as the main thrust, because you can't fool people. As you said earlier, you got to get it built. So that's another thing. You're only as good as your client, as Stark always said. But I think, why not? Why not mix it all up? And I think there's bigger things going on in the world, that create climate change in a big way. AI, data centers, energy use. Shocking. I was just with one of the top AI people recently, and he gave a little talk, and he was really worried. He's young, he's really worried about how it'll play out. And then he sat down, and I said, so how will AI be helpful then? And he said, health, great, medicine, health, and the whole thing. I'm thinking, what's the point of dealing with health and medicine if we got incredible climate change problems generated by the generation of the extra energy and using all the water table? Please. So, I think if you just pull it back, if you get too far into that, you'll give up. What's great about design is it's an incredibly optimistic, spirited profession. And as long as you're busy, you don't think about anything else. That's what artists do. They're so busy, they're not worried about what anything else is going on. Maybe that's a better way.
Thanks to the three of you. It's been a real pleasure to talk to you. I think we're up. Thank you, Rania, Pallavi, Ross, and thank you, Gaggenau, for hosting us here, and of course, all of you for joining us. But yes, a big round of applause.